Hey. Welcome. So it's Tuesday. It's lunch for me. Maybe a little bit late. Actually, definitely a little bit late. Late start on lunch today. But we're doing Epic React part two, or the second workshop, which I'm really excited about. So the first one was really cool. We like built up a lot of Reacty stuff from the ground up to get a better understanding of like what React is doing. That's the I can't remember, React Essentials workshop. And then today we're working on the hooks, which is kind of all of the state effects, context, all that kind of stuff. So I've never done this before, or I've never gone through this module or this material before. So I'll be streaming my experience, kind of learning all of these, for the first time. So that's it. That's what we're going to be doing today. And yeah, let's dive into it. Things are a little, I kind of move into this new space, things are a little bit weird. So, FYI, but didn't want to let it stop me today. So let's get into it. I have my screen here. I downloaded this from GitHub. Oh, move this out of the way. Don't want that. Downloaded this from GitHub. It's just the let's see. I don't remember exactly where it is, but you can find it. It's under Kent C. Dodd's Epic React React hooks. So I have this. This is fresh, and I opened it in VS Code over here, and then I'm gonna figure out what npm command I'm supposed to run. What's up, Arthur? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Thanks for hanging out. Green screen. I know. Yeah. So like it's interesting. This green screen doesn't really fit the whole space like in this camera. So like when I'm on this view, it doesn't really fit, but it could work here. And I'm trying to figure out how to like do one for one, like one in one view and one not in the other. Not exactly sure how to make that work yet. In Ecamm, if you have tips, Ecamm tips, I accept. Okay, cool. So, good to see you as always. Thanks for being here. Okay, so we're gonna run npm run to see what commands we have. Actually, I don't even know if I've run npm install, so got to do that first. But let's see what we have. So we have start, which runs Krakow start, and then Krakow test. I don't know what Krakow is. I assume that it's used to facilitate some of these examples running. Actually, what is Krakow? This is let's see, Arc. I'm on Twitter, of course. Okay, Krakow. I'm gonna put JS. Create React app configure. Create React app configuration override. Okay, interesting. So Krakow is a way to run create React apps with additional config. Okay, interesting. Cool. Yes, create React app override. What's up, dude? What's up? Good to see you. Demetrius. Love you, my friend. Okay, Krakow is a way to use create React app with custom config. Yes. Let's go. Without ejecting. Yeah. Which is so funny. That whole thing was like such a big deal of like, super opinionated, but then you can eject and kind of like have like a starting point. And then it was like no one wanted to eject because like there was constantly work being done on it, and ejecting was like there was like 5,000 modules that no one would actually install on their own. Such an interesting problem. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to do this thing now where it's like I have the capability in here to stream to all three places, and so like I don't even know what to. I don't know what to do. I'm just trying it out. I've adopted a little bit more of a like, we could try it type of thing instead of trying to figure it all out. Okay, cool. So we know what Krakow is now, which is great. Okay, so hopefully npm install is done and we can get into this. So Krakow start is the command that we're going to be running. There's a bunch of other npm scripts that we could use if we wanted to. One of those is eject, I'm sure, or maybe not. No, eject's not in here. So let's do that. Npm start. It took me a second. Why did it take me a second? Okay, we're gonna open that in this editor, and then let's focus. Let's get these things side by side, huh? Okay. Oh yeah, just took Vite for a spin. Yeah, Vite is kind of like the Vite starters are kind of my favorite right now. They're pretty great, and they're fast, really fast. Yeah, really good. Okay, cool. So this is the workshop. This is great. So all of these workshops kind of have like a similar structure. So you have the code, you run it locally, and then you have these exercises that you can run through. They have both an exercise and a final completed version. That is mirrored in the source directory, I believe. Yeah, so we have our source directory over here, and let's see. So what do we have? So tests, exercises, those are the ones that we're going to work in. And then all the finals, these are the built out examples. So you can kind of compare what you've done to them. So we'll open example. Let's see. Oh no, wait, this is extra. So we want exercises. So the MD file is the one with all the instructions. We're going to read those over here actually. And then the JS file is where we will do the exercises. So let's jump into this. So we're going to start pretty simply with useState. And then actually I went to the exercise only. I want both of these right now. Okay, cool. I'm going to do this. And then, if you have questions or whatever, I do too. So, don't hesitate. Happy to, I want this to be, helpful for whoever's watching. I know a lot of y'all are like super advanced, so thanks for being here. Even though we're kind of going through the easy stuff, but I find that I've learned something every time that we go through one of these things. So hopefully, there's a lot to learn here. Okay, let's dive in. So what do we got? So we have our exercise, as we know there. So background. Normally, an interactive application will need to hold state somewhere. In React, use special functions called hooks to do this. Common built-in hooks include React useState, useEffect, useContext, useRef, and useReducer. Now, this is stupid, but one of the reasons that I thought it'd be kind of fun to do these streams is because for whatever reason, people have actually said to me that they'd like for me to just read them the docs. So that's kind of part of what these streams are about. Lord knows why, but that's the thing. So just giving everybody what they want. Hey, look, now we have Alex over here. One thing that is kind of funny about streaming both places is that it's like sometimes it's like a Twitch day, sometimes it's like a YouTube day. Like it's fun. I accept. Okay, so this is what we got. So each of these is a special function that you can call inside your custom React component function to store data, like state or perform actions or side effects. There are a few more built-in hooks that have special use cases, but the ones above are what we'll be using most of the time. Each of these hooks has a unique API. Some return a value like React useRef and React useContext. Others return a pair of values like React useState and useReducer. The others return nothing at all like useEffect. Now this idea, I'm actually glad that Kent explains this because this is something that actually confused the hell out of me when I first started learning JavaScript, was the idea that different array and object methods had different APIs. I kind of assumed that they would all have the same one, and it was odd to me that I would have to know specifically how those callback functions would receive arguments. It felt like a lot to learn, honestly. And so I have a lot of empathy for this clarification right here, because it feels It's a moment in programming where you're like, fuck, there's a lot of shit that I need to know. But yeah, yes, there is. Okay, so here's an example of a component that uses the useState hook and an on-click event handler to update that state. So we have a counter, our handy dandy counter component. Count, set count, React useState starts at 0, so we get our default here. And then we have an increment function. What is that? Expression? Yes, function expression. That takes no arguments and then just updates the set count. And then we use, what is that, point free? What's the term for that? Yeah, point free function call. I don't know the computer sciencey words. Like Morgan Freeman for Dev Docs. You know, maybe I should start a like bespoke silly podcast where I'm just reading docs. I mean, because I do believe in reading docs. Maybe I should put my money where my mouth is and actually read docs for people. Okay, let's do this. React useState returns a pair of values. It does this by returning an array with 2 elements, and we use destructuring syntax to assign each of those values to distinct variables. The first of the pair is the state value, and the second is a function we can call to update the state. We can name these variables whatever we want. Common conventions is to choose a name for the state variable, then prefix set in front of that for the update function. Okay, it's kind of a funny worded sentence. Common convention is to choose a name for the state variable, then prefix set in front of that word for the updater function. Okay, state can be defined as data that changes over time. This is interesting too because time is just changing relationships, right? So our measured changing relationships. So how does this work over time? When the button is clicked, our increment function will be called, at which time. See, the problem is that I need to learn how to read. If I could read, then we could have our docs podcast. Which time we would update the count by calling set count. Okay, so when we call set count, that tells React to re-render our component. When it does, this entire counter function is rerun. So when React useState is called this time, the value we get back is the value that we called set count with. And it continues like that until counter is unmounted, removed from the application, or the user closes the application. Okay, so exercise time. Exercise. Production deploys, okay? In this exercise, we have a form where you can type in your name, and we'll give you a greeting as you type. Fill out the greeting component so that it manages the state of the name and shows the greeting as the name is changed. Okay, so what do we have right here? So if I click on this, okay, so we have nothing. We have, it looks like some kind of unbound. We learned some of this last week. So we have a form with an input and an uncontrolled input. So the value, we have nothing that's setting value here. So uncontrolled so far. So fill out the greeting component so that it manages the state of the name and shows the greeting as the name is changed. Okay, so we're going to change our greeting component to manage the state and show that state as the greeting is changed. Okay, so I don't think it matters like how we do that for this particular example. So I guess we'll just kind of like put a P tag in here. These aren't working. Why aren't those working? And then I like to use my variables first and then actually create them. So this will be name, I guess. That's all we have. The label is name. So let's go with that. And then let's see. So then we'll use We'll do structure name here equals react.useState. And then we have React here. Okay, perfect. And it's getting all the goodies from React. So we have that. I guess we'll just start with empty string. Okay, so what's our problem so far? Name has already been declared. Oh, we have that here. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm seeing it now. Picking up what's being put down. Okay, so I guess we, change that. So we're going to take that from our array and then change this like that. Okay, so now that is no longer a problem. Now, however, let's change this to default so that we can see that the name is there. But then when we type, nothing happens. So we want to handle change here. So delete this variable. Okay, so we did that. Update the name here based on the event target value. So here we're going to return set name. What the set name? I guess I have to escape out of that one. And then this will just be, let's see. So event.target value. Okay. And then we should be good because this is already wired up. So on change, handle change, we're going to set name. Now we just have to take that. Okay. And so we have default right now. And as we type, that changes. Oh, look, this is already there because I'm stupid. Okay, so as we type, that changes. There's so much set up for me. If only I, again, reading problems, learned how to read. Okay, cool. Now, one thing that's kind of weird is that when we have this default and we refresh that, this isn't here. So theoretically, we'd probably want to make this a controlled component where we put name in there so we can actually see the name. And then that all works. So then even if we have default in there, it's still that first experience is still bound correctly. So I think that's it. That was pretty simple. What do we got here? Oh, Austin, what's up? Good to see you. I always love seeing you around. I hope that we run into each other at a conference again because I love giving you hugs, man. And professing my love to you from the stage. That will always make me happy. I don't often rewatch my talks, but I might watch that one just because, we were there hanging out. Money is where your mouth is, literally. Let's see. So are you new to React or are you going through a tutorial? I am going through a tutorial. So one of the things that I'm working on this, let's switch this up. One of the projects that I'm working on this year is to kind of help. Oh, look, we have text messages. I think some text messages get through. One of the projects that I'm working on this year is to help get Epic React up to React 18 and then also TypeScript. And so I figured that while I was going through the material, familiarizing with it, I would just stream that for anyone who kind of had maybe wanted to go through some of these workshops and didn't, hadn't had another time to do it. And so I'm just doing that, but even so, I'm still learning a lot as I go because there's a lot of nuance around these things that sometimes we miss when we're just kind of learning stuff kind of on our own. So really excited to go through this content. But no, I've been writing React for, this is so funny, like I guess 10 years now, which I think was like Christmas of 2023 was when I started kind of tinkering with it. I think that's when it was. So yes, that doesn't mean that I'm great at it. It just means that I've been doing it for a long time. Okay, let's go. Go. Okay, so this is what we got. So extra credit. Okay, so 100% accept an initial name. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so 100%. Okay, accept initial name. Makes a greeting, accept a prop called initial name, and initialize the name state to that value. Okay, so we can definitely do that. Our prop, let's actually start by providing the prop in this case, and then we can kind of see it pop into place. Initial, what do we want to call this? Initial name. Another great, I mean, it's like very subtle, but like another kind of common, man, I keep running into that. Another common naming convention here is like if you're going to take a value as a prop, but then manipulate it via state, that initial prefix is fairly common. So initial name, I think that was in the documentation at one point, may still be. Initial name, we're going to give it an initial name of Michael. Let's do that. Obviously nothing changed because we're not even taking that prop. So let's take that prop. Initial name. We weren't taking props before, so we don't have to be careful about making sure that we're, handling any incoming props still. So I think we're good there. I may initialize this to an empty string just so we don't have any type issues. Change this to initial name. And that should be all that we need to do. Everything should be still wired up on our state variable name, which should not be a problem. So I hit save. Yep, Michael comes in. I can change this to Chan. It didn't work. Maybe just didn't trigger. Yeah, it just didn't trigger. And then I can, update still. So if I do this, we're good to go. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so that's the only extra credit for that one. So I think, pretty easy on useState. useState. Any questions? No questions. So story time. So it was maybe I can't remember if it was the year that they got introduced or the year after, but we were hanging out at React Conf, and me and Sunil Pai had this like just ongoing joke throughout the conference that we should be calling them Usees. Like I don't know, we were on this like really weird kind of like Yeezy, Usey train, and so that they shouldn't be called hooks; they should be called Usees because they're all use prefixed. It's not much of a story, but it is history. Let's go to the next one. So we're going to go to lesson 2. We can click this handy useEffect persistent state button here. And let's go. Any questions about useState, hit me up. We'll sort them out. Now, I think that we can kind of get a sense of how well we did based on what is in this example. And so let's kind of like evaluate some of that. Interesting that, so there is no, like first thing we note is that it wasn't changed to a controlled component. So we don't have a value here. There's no return here. Not strictly necessary. It's the only thing that happens in this function, but I don't know. I think it's like I think I got into this habit. Oh, shoot. Screen. Thank you. I think I got into this habit with CoffeeScript. So CoffeeScript had this implicit return at the end of every function. It kind of like got me thinking like, oh yeah, functions should always return something. And so I kind of got in this habit of always returning the last line, which was kind of the CoffeeScript default. I don't think that's necessarily good practice, but it is something that I got from CoffeeScript. Lots of things that I got from CoffeeScript that are not necessarily great. Usees. Okay, so I think I even, this is a dumb tangent. npm, I think we had a tough time deciding like what was the most like street spelling of this, but I think it was Usees, like that. Yeah, so stupid. I clearly thought this was funny and then never did anything with it. It says published 3 years ago, so um, that's some high quality stupidity there, I think, or high reference stupidity at least. Okay, so what are we doing? Okay, background. So useEffect persistent state. Okay, background. React useEffect. In the built-in hook that allows you to run some custom code that React renders and re-renders your component to the. Is a built-in hook. Renders your component to the DOM. It accepts a callback function with which React will call after the DOM has been updated. Okay, so React useEffect, your side effect code here, and then this is where you can make HTTP requests or interact with browser APIs. Feel free to take a look at the source examples hook flow PNG. Where is that? Let's see. Nope, wrong window. Hook flow PNG. Oh, yes. I've seen this before. It's from Donovan. Okay, hook flow diagram. Okay, so there is a mount and then render. React updates the DOM. Cleanup layout effects, which goes through to unmount, run layout effects. I don't fully understand this diagram, not gonna lie. Okay, updates are used. Updates are caused by apparent re-render, state flow change, or context change. Lazy initializers are functions passed to useState and useReducer. Okay, so yeah, React hook flow diagram. So mount, render. Okay, browser paint screen, cleanup effects happen. Run effects. Okay, maybe I'll understand that a little bit better after we go through this lesson. Okay, so if you're interested in the timing of when your functions are run, this will make more sense after finishing the exercise. Extra credits instructions. Yes. Okay, cool. So I made the right choice of not spending too much time on that illustration. Exercise. In this exercise, we're going to enhance our greeting component to get its initial state value from local storage, if available, and keep local storage updated as the name is updated. Extra credit. Okay, so cool. Okay, so there's not a ton of information for me to go off of here, so I'm going to jump over to the code. With which we see a few instructions. So we're on that page right now. Okay, so initialize the state to the value from local storage. Window.localstorage.getItemName. Question, initial name. Okay, we can do that. So effectively, we just want to add this part. And then what's the name of the double questions again? I can never... Names are not my strong suit, whether human names or function names, or API names. Window.localstorage.getItemName. Okay, so we're going to look for name in local storage. And then if we don't have one, then we're going to initialize to the value that we got passed to us. We're not passing in a value at the moment. So this will be nothing to start. Okay, so here's where you'll use React useEffect. The callback should set the name in local storage. Window local storage.setItemName name. Okay, we can actually just uncomment this, remove that money, and we're good. So window.localstorage set name name. Okay, but we need to wrap this in a useEffect. So react.useEffect. And then what? We put this in a function. Man, it's been a minute. Okay, so we put that in a function, and then we would. I mean, I guess it's not important yet, but we return some kind of like cleanup function if we wanted to. So we got to return a function that does a thing to, I don't know, clear out local storage in this case, if that's something that we care about. So let's hit this. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I knew it had a name that I was not ever going to remember. So nullish coalescing operator, which I definitely remembered off the top. Thank you for your honesty and your service there. Yes, nullish coalescing. It's actually kind of a fun thing to say. Nullish coalescing. Nullish is a fun word. There's a couple words in programming that are just kind of funny to say. What's the I can't shoot, what is it? Venable. Venable is one of my favorite terms in computer science. Venable. It's venable. Okay. Oh, where are we? Lord help me. Okay, so having done this, I'm trying to think of like what we would expect here. So I think we should expect that if I type something here and we refresh, it should still have that option because it's pulling from local storage. This is my what I would expect. So I'm going to refresh this, and does. Cool. So we are pulling that from local storage. We can inspect local storage actually. So where is that? An application, storage, local storage down here. What do we have? Yep. And so we have this name key, which is something, and we should be able to see that update. Yeah. So we see that update in real time to my name. Hello, my name, Michael Chan. Okay, cool. So we see that update in real time. I think we can, what do we do? Delete this value. And if we refresh, we should see nothing. Yes, we do see nothing. That's great. Now, what happens if we have a value in, no, actually, while it's, oh no, shoot, I just added a value. Okay. Okay, do that again. We're deleting the value. I want to place an initial value. So initial name is Michael. And we will, let's see. I think, okay. Interesting. Did I do that right? Initial name. Yeah, okay. So initial name, that's correct. Let's run that again. I think I might have, yeah, I inserted a name. Okay, so initial name, we had nothing in here before, but because we provided an initial name here, that then ran this useEffect and put that into local storage. So now if we refresh, the initial name is in local storage. I think that's, yeah, I think that's good. I think it's thorough. That's what it's supposed to do in my estimation. And then clearly, if we change this, we want to see some updates. And yes, it does store that in local storage. Very, very easy so far. Okay, so I think we can go to the extra credit. Like, okay, so we did all that. Yeah, so we can go to the extra credit for this. Okay. Lazy state initialization. So right now, every time our component function is run, our function reads from local storage. This is problematic because it could be a performance bottleneck. Reading from local storage can be slow. And what's more, we only actually need to know the value from local storage the first time this component is rendered. So the additional reads are wasted effort. So the idea here is like if this component is inside a tree that's like rendering every second, it's actually going to pull from, it's going to make a query local storage every time the component's rendered, which is kind of unnecessary. Yeah, it is unnecessary. And then every time we update it, like there's an event and we're updating it, we don't need to read from it. Because we're setting it. Yeah. Now I'm trying to remember. So use state. Okay, so I think that these examples are going to actually like demonstrate this. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, like recreating what's going to be shown. Okay, so to avoid this problem, React useState hook allows you to pass a function instead of the actual value, and then it will only call that function to get the state value when the component is rendered the first time. So you can go from this React useState some expensive computation to this React useState function some expensive computation function. And then some expensive computation function will only be called when it's needed. Okay. So make the React useState call as lazy initialization to avoid a performance bottleneck of reading into local storage on every render. Learn more about lazy initialization. So this goes to a blog post by Kent. Great. I did not know this. So like, look at this. This is like what lesson 2 on like React hooks basics. I did not know this. So super cool. Love you, Ken. Gotta love you. Gotta love you. And I do love you, even if I didn't gotta. Okay, so what was I doing here? Oh yeah, okay. So we're gonna insert a function here. And what is that function gonna look like? So, or I guess, do we need to extract it? Oh, interesting. I think we can just put the function body right in here, and that should be fine, right? Clearly, I don't know for certain because this is all new to me. Let's see, what are we getting here? It doesn't like that comma at the end. Okay, now what do we got? Expected an assignment or function call and instead saw an expression. Okay, so I guess maybe let's pull this out. Unless, okay, let's see, what am I doing? Okay, so we're going to, because we're actually calling a function. So we'd have to put this in some kind of like self-invoking function if we didn't put it somewhere else. So we do need to put it somewhere else. Okay, so function get name from local storage. I guess we could change some of these to arguments, but we don't need to. Okay, so window.local storage. So we're getting that or setting it with the initial value. So we're going to return either one, whichever one ends up coming up. And then we're going to actually call this function, which is get name from local storage, like that. And I think that does it. I think. To be sure, we're going to, what was it? Application, go back into here. Let's filter by name so I don't have to keep scrolling down. Let's delete that. We're gonna return, we should get Michael. Yes, we see Michael. That should persist. Yes, so it all still works, it looks like. And now it doesn't re-render as much. So I wish there was a way for me to easily see that, but there is not. It doesn't seem. Let's see, do these like glitch when they render? Or is that just the DOM? I guess flicker is probably a better word than glitch. Okay, cool. Okay, so that is really interesting. Okay, so I'm realizing that this is not really like... Interesting. So I think actually this, if we want this to... No, it's fine. It's fine. I was going to say, do we need this to kind of like do this outside of this? But no. Okay. Cool. Let's see what else we. Okay, actually, I'm gonna open this up. Let's open this post up. I got questions. Maybe this blog post answers them. Okay. And Kent is so good at this stuff. Okay, so useState, lazy initialization, and function updates. Okay, so if you've been working with React for a while, you've probably used useState. Here's a quick example of the API. So you can use state with an initial value, and it returns an array with a value of the state and a mechanism for updating it, which is called state dispatch function. Yep, state dispatch function. When you call the state dispatch function, you pass the new value of the state, and that triggers a re-render for the component, which leads to useState getting called again to retrieve the new state value and dispatch the function again. This is one of the first things you learn about state when you're getting into React. At least it is if you learn from my free course. But there are lesser known features of both the useState and the dispatch function that can be useful at times. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. Incrementers, set count. Okay, so I'm familiar with this for sure, where you take the previous state as a function argument instead of just using the value. The difference is that useState in this example is called with a function that returns the initial state rather than simply passing the initial state, and setCount dispatch is called with a function that accepts the previous state value and returns the new one. This function is exactly the same as the previous example, but there are subtle differences that we'll get into in this post. I teach about this again in my free React course as well, but I guess, okay. useState lazy. Okay, if you were to add console.log to the function body of the counter function, you would find that the function is run every time you click the button. Okay, let's do that. This makes sense because you're counting the function, because your counter function is run during every render phase, and clicking the button triggers the state update, which triggers the re-render. One thing that you need to keep in mind is that if the function body runs, that means all the code inside it runs as well, which means any variables you create or arguments you pass are created and evaluated every render. This is normally not a big deal because JavaScript engines are very fast and can optimize for those kinds of things. So something like this would be no problem. Yes. However, what if the initial value for your state is computationally expensive? Okay, so this is an example of what we're doing here, where we're actually reaching into a database, or reaching into local storage. Or a more practical, what if you need to read from local storage, which is an IO operation? Yes, IO operation is a much more elegant way of saying or something, like I did. Okay, const initial state number window.localstorage.get item. Is this all making sense, by the way? Am I the last person to know this? Remember that the only time React needs to initial state is initially. Winky, meaning it only really needs the initial state on the first render. But because our function body runs every time there's a re-render of our component, we end up running that code on every render, even if its value is not used or needed. This is what the lazy initialization is all about. It allows you to put the code in a function. Okay, lazy initialization. So get initial state. So we have a function expression number window local storage of the count. Okay, so we're coursing that into a number. Const count, set count, and then we're going to set it from that initial state. Okay. In our case, this would also have the nullish coalescing operator, and then our initial value that was handed down as a prop. Okay, creating a function is fast, even if what the function does is computationally expensive. So you only pay the performance penalty when you call this function. So if you pass a function to useState, React will only call the function when it needs the initial value, which is when the component is initially rendered. Okay. Now this is tracking. Okay, right? Because right. Okay, yeah, because we're using useState. This isn't updating the value. This is just the initial value. And so got it. This is making a lot more sense because the initial value we were applying directly before. In our case above, though, we were still kind of like running that check, I guess. So giving a function is a way to bypass that. Only calls a function when it needs the initial value, which is when the component is initially rendered. Okay, this is called lazy initialization. It's a performance optimization. You shouldn't have to use it a whole lot, but it can be useful in some situations. So it's good to know that it's a feature that exists and you can use it when needed. I would say I use this only 2% of the time. It's not really a feature I use often. Okay, so dispatch function updates. This one's a little bit more complicated. The easiest way to explain. Okay, so I think, is this also going to talk about an optimization? Okay, it is. Probably not going to talk about that right now, but it is what it is. Okay, cool. Great. I'm getting it now. It's coming into view. Let's do the next extra credit and see how we did. Yeah, I for sure. I had no idea. Which, yeah, the more you know. This is great. This is why we do this stuff. Again, like I did not expect to learn something in like the first extra credit of how to use the useState hook. So very props to Kent. Okay, cool. So let's go to let's see, useEffect. Let's go to useEffect 2, and then yeah, let's do this. Okay, so we're gonna go here. Okay. The callback we're passing to useEffect is called after every render of our component, including re-renders. This is exactly what we want because we want to make sure that the name is saved into local storage whenever it changes. But there are various reasons a component can be re-rendered. For example, when a parent component in the application tree gets re-rendered. So we were talking about this before. If something renders this component, not sure. Not sure what's happening right now, but we'll see. Okay, so re-rendered. Okay, really, we only want local storage to get updated when the name state actually changes. This is a lot of the same comment. Whatevs. Trash heap. Okay, cool. Hello, welcome. Oh, hey, Raiders, what's up? I got raided. Okay, cool. Thank you for being here. We're going through the Epic React course. Right now we're going through hooks. And so we're going through the useEffect hook. If that sounds interesting to you, feel free to stick around. I know that it is kind of basic for some seeming, but we've actually learned stuff already in some of these, just kind of basic early extra credit examples. So anyway, yes. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I hope you stick around. Pretty casual, but if you have questions, let us know. Yeah. React is hard. I definitely need to learn. I have a problem where I buy domains, and one of the domains that I purchased a while ago is React is hard. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Okay, so this is the second example, and or the second shoot, the second fuck, what was I talking about? This is the second extra credit. Let's dive into this. So the callback we're passing to React useEffect is called after every re-render. Okay, so I read that already. Really, we only want local storage to get updated when the name state actually changes. It doesn't need to rerun any other time. Luckily for us, React useEffect allows you to pass a second argument called a dependency array, which signals to React that your effect callback function should be called when and only when those dependencies change. So we can use this to avoid doing unnecessary work. Add a dependency array for React useEffect to avoid the callback being called too many times. Okay, so let's jump into, okay, so this is useEffect number 2. So we need to go back to number 2. Okay, so if we want to change this, we find our useEffect, and then this is the second argument. We add a dependency array. And because we don't have any incoming arguments, we don't have to think about those, but we are using name, which is this variable right here. So we would want to include that into our inputs for this. I'm curious what this says here. So React hook react.useEffect is missing a dependency name. Either include it or remove its dependencies. Really love these React hooks recommendations or ESLint rules. Makes it really easy to do this kind of stuff because, I don't have to learn how to program. Let's see. So in useEffect, does the dependency array have to include everything that shows up in the expressions it wraps, or just the ones that you want to track the change of? That's a really good question. Like, I think really just the ones you want to track the change for. Like, this is effectively an optimization. So if we have nothing in here, this is going to run every time the component renders. If we provide an array that's empty and it's not tracking anything, it's only going to run like the first time it renders. And so, yeah, this is just kind of a way to say like, okay, well, anytime this changes, we want to rerun this useEffect. Of course, like this is a like, what is it? Like cleared list, right? So we're only watching for those. So you could find yourself in a case where maybe you use some kind of value in here and you don't track it, but because now we're explicitly tracking stuff, now it's not going to rerun when that value changes. So yes, I think that anything inside of your function that you want to update on, any values that you use in there, you're definitely going to want to use or track, I think, because as soon as you start adding things to this list, you've already reduced the number of times this function is going to run. Hopefully that tracks. Yeah, because it's kind of like a filter, right? Like, here, maybe I can demonstrate this better, like with this. So we have like a network filter for, let's see, how did I get, okay, so I'm on docs right now, right? So if we have let me rerun this. So we get like a whole bunch of things, right? But then as soon as we kind of filter this down to like just CSS, then it's only looking for those CSS things. So anything else anything else that changes, if we get more images or we get more fonts or we get more XHRs, none of those are going to show up because we're like filtering on the CSS thing. So we would, I can't do it in here, but like we would want to like filter on JSS. We would want to watch JS and CSS and all that kind of stuff. So like a multi-select kind of thing. So I don't know, hopefully that helps. Can you explain why you wouldn't want to use memo in this case? No, I'm not sure that I can. I would like to, but yeah, use memo. I mean, we could read up on use memo a little bit. So React what's the new one? React.dev. Is that the new domain? Yeah. So let's look for use memo. Okay. Okay, so use memo in React is a React hook that lets you cache the result of a calculation between re-renders. So cache value is use memo, calculate value, dependencies. So I guess like maybe the simplistic answer is that in this case, we don't really need use memo because this inputs is kind of doing that work for us. So like the signature of like useEffect already has this like inputs array. So this is like effectively memoizing this function call by filtering out the things that you don't, only the things that you want it to run for. It's a little bit different than a memo, whereas a memo is caching the result. An effect doesn't really have a result per se, right? Like, so an effect is it's sending this to local storage. There may be a result from, you know, local storage. It may provide a value or whatever, but we're not actually using that value. So this is just doing an effect. Whereas a memo is going to run a function and then actually cache the results of that function along with the values used to create it. And if it gets called with the same values, it just returns the return value from the previous time that it ran. So I think the difference here is really just in return values versus effects, because this effect does not have a return value. So I don't know. Hopefully that's cogent. But yeah, hopefully that answers. And yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm glad that you asked, Trash Puppy. And yeah, and yes, Arth Vader. I hope that answers your question. I think it's really just about return values, though, in my estimation. But happy to, if there are other folks with ideas, let's shout them out. Okay, so what do we got here? Let's go back to what we were working on. Okay, so gotta scroll back down to extra credit. So I think that we got that one. So add that to dependencies array. We can kind of check our answers in these finals. We'll go to what is it? 2 extra credit 1. And what did we have? Favorite animal display. Where's the use effect? Oh, sorry, 2 extra credit 1. Yeah. Sorry, it took me a while to find. Okay, so there, yeah. So we have the name in our use effect. Okay, let's jump to extra credit 3. Okay, custom hook. So the best part of hooks is that if you find a bit of logic inside your component function that you think would be useful elsewhere, you can put that in another function and call it from the components that need it, just like regular JavaScript. These functions you create are called custom hooks. Create a custom hook called use local storage state for reusability of this logic. Okay, so let's jump back to our lesson here. And we have useEffect. Okay, now I'm curious how much of this that we actually want to throw in here. So let's kind of look at what we got. So we have this function, which we call to use state. And then we have this function, which we call to use effect. So I think the idea is that we're going to take all of this and pull it out into a new function. So, or a new hook. So by pattern, we use by pattern. No, what by? Yeah, I can remember. So we're going to use, let's see, was it use local storage state? Okay, and actually that makes sense now that we would put all of the state and everything in there. Okay, now we have this set name. Okay, so in our event handler, we have this set name function. And so we're going to need to return that from here. So let's focus on that as well. Just putting me on the spot. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, see if I'm full of shit, which I am most of the time. So yeah. What's up, Anthony? Good to see you. Always a pleasure to see you. By convention. There we go. Thank you, Alex. Saving my bacon. You knew what I was talking about. Why could I not pop that into my head? You just taught Jan Docker. Nice. That's awesome. Can you teach me Docker next? Okay. Okay, so we're building this custom hook now. We have everything that we had before. We just kind of moved it into this use local state function. We're getting some errors here, or warnings here. So use local state storage is declared, but its value is never used. Yes. Okay. Now, what we need to do is kind of figure out what the API of this custom component or custom hook is going to look like, and what it's going to return. So we know for sure that we want to return a set state function. So we could just, or set name function. So we could just pop that out, and then do, so let, I guess we can just call it set name equal use local storage state. Now we're not gonna have access to initial, so we need to pass that in. So initial name, and then take that as an argument. I don't know if that'll make sense long term, but we're just trying to make this thing work. So let's see, unexpected use of name, use global restrictions. Global restrictions, line 37. Okay, name. Okay, so we also need the name as a value. So we're gonna do this. We're going to return an array. So just like we do with state, except this is gonna persist over local storage. This will have the same API. I really like building things up from errors. It's kind of a pattern that I picked up when I was doing TDD and Rails. You learn a lot about what you have when you're just kind of like doing it from the errors, and then you don't kind of like over design your APIs. So this is great. So this is looking like set state now, except now it's from, or use state, but now it's from local storage. Okay, so we save this and we refresh that. It has a value in there already. Let's see, is it the initial value? Yes, so let's change the initial value. Now, because we have a value inside of local storage, this should stay Michael, even though we've changed the initial name. That's my expectation, that's my theory. And so we'll see if that happens. So again, we have in our application, our local storage, it's Michael. So if I hit let me move this down a little bit. If I hit refresh, it stays Michael. Okay, cool. This is exactly what we wanted. And then if I change this to, let's see, Darth Vader, and then refresh that, then it has pulled it from local storage, which is great. Simple APIs, please. Yes, always. The simpler, the better. Okay, cool. Okay, I think we did that. We can actually check this by running into our, let's see, final extra credit 2, no, extra credit 3. Okay, so what does this look like? Yep, same things. Oh, interesting. Oh, key. Okay, so this is actually really nice. So here, we had a hard-coded key in our example. This takes us out, which is actually good. So use local storage because we will need a key for that. Local storage name and then kind of initial value, and then we default that to empty string, so we don't have any like type things. If we were to like capitalize first on this, it will be a string by default, so we can call those functions on them. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically the only difference is just this key is made dynamic in this version of the API, which we can, we can do. let's see, just for thoroughness. So we're going to use the name key. So we'll pass that in, take it here, key, and then change both of these to key. And then let's see, we're getting a little warning here. So, oh, interesting. So this is saying that we should include it. React Hook React useEffect has a missing dependency key, either include it or remove it, or remove the dependency array. Okay. We can make the error warning go away. I'm curious what is in here. Yep. Okay. So key was also included here. Makes sense. And especially because now that this is part of this API, theoretically it could be called, the name could change. I guess we could make this dynamic if we really wanted to. That seems kind of weird, but yes. So key needs to be in there. Okay, cool. I think that we're good now on 3. Let's see how much time we have. I could probably do to the half-hour mark. Any questions about that so far? Are we doing good? Feeling good? Okay, 3. No, we already did that. Okay, so we're on 4. Oh, cool. Nice. We might actually make it to the end of this one. I have not ever used it. I know. Not nerdy enough, this one right here. I hand in my nerd badge. Okay, flexible local storage hook. Take your custom use local storage hook and make it a generic enough to support any data type. Yeah. You know, I miss the fail whale on Twitter. Like, I actually don't care that, like, you know, Doge is like the icon that you see on Twitter now. Just bring back the fail whale. I mean, especially as we're seeing it more, I'd love to see a friendly fail whale face. Super cute. Super cute. That is a cute whale. Agreed. Okay, so flexible local storage hook. Take your custom use local storage state hook and make it generic enough to support any data type. Remember, you have to serialize objects to strings. So use json.stringify and json.parse. Go wild with this. Okay, note. If you'd like to learn more about when different hooks are called and the order in which they are called, then open source example hook follow PNG, and yes, play around with that a bit, and hopefully that will help solidify this for you. Note that understanding this isn't absolutely necessary for you to understand hooks, but it will help you in some situations, so it's useful to understand. Let's see. Please note there are subtle changes in the order of cleanup functions getting called in React 17. Okay, cool. Actually, interesting. So was this course released on React 16? That's interesting. I thought it was 17, but I guess it is React 16. So it'll be good to get it up onto 18. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so the idea is, what are we doing again? Because any data type, remember, you have to serialize objects to strings. So, okay, so any data type. Okay, so this is interesting though, because we have what we have here is going to be a string. Like the value is going to be type string, right? Like even if I put a 9 here, it's still going to be string, I think. .log event.target.value type of Oh, you know what? It might not log out because this is in an iframe. Definitely getting the change there. Why is it not doing what I ask? Am I? Oh, on the example. I hate it when I do that. It's like working on the expecting to see your logs and you're on like a production tab or whatever. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. What was I doing? Okay, so I want to log this one out. Okay, console.log event. Okay. Except I wanted the type of, that's what I had before. Type of string. Okay. Okay, so the idea for this one is that we wanted to like have it work for any value, but then I was saying that objects need to be serialized in a certain way. Okay, so theoretically, we have this. Can we just call JSON.stringify on it? And then how would we test it? That's the big question that I have. Okay, so let's see. So initial name, we don't want a name. We don't want to call this initial name here. So we're gonna take that out and we're gonna call this initial value. Okay, so we have this. We can pass anything into any key. So let's, I guess, keep this, but then also make another thing. Value. Let's set up a new input for this. So this will be kind of some kind of like actually no. What I want to do is I just want to set up things. So like we'll set up a number. This will be 9. Let's just display all these. Number value. Object value. Array value. And we'll duplicate these. Object value. Array value. Change these. Name. This is an array. 1, 9. Okay. So we have all of this set up now, but we are getting errors because, well, first of all, we can't render these. So this will be JSON.stringify that object. Okay, and then we need to, what else do we need to do? We need to kind of, as we're setting it, JSON.stringify name, and as we're reading it, where are we reading it? Get item. And then we'll wrap this whole thing in JSON parse. Like that. Okay, now I want to clear all of these. So we'll go into our application, our local storage. And what do we have? So we have number and name. And I didn't do these right. So object and array. Okay. So number, object and array. I guess we don't need, oh no, we do a JSON parse, so that is an object. So we'll have to do that. Saved this, and what do we got? Okay, so, shoot. Okay. Okay, so it's sending in the initial values. So it's calling all of these, setting local storage with the initialization values. We have a number 9, we have our object, and we have our array. So those are all stored in there. But then I could do type of, which is, we want to make sure that the type is retained. I don't want to stringify that, or else that'll just be string and not object. Type of array value. Okay, cool. So number, object, which is, so we'd have to do is array, or what is it? Is array of array value. Is that right? Yeah. Array is, shoot. Array is array. I'm going to look up that API real quick. Hey, yo, real official birdie. What's up? What's up? What are the markup files? Yes, so the markup files are these lessons. So as I'm going through the Epic React course, the markup, when we look at this is a split view right here of the these markup files right here. And then the exercise, and then the finals for the various extra credits and whatnot. So this I'm just reading here. I could read it in Markdown if we wanted to. Yep. Okay, so did that work? Oh, yeah, we were looking at is array. How do we do that? Okay, so I think, you know what, actually I need that. I just need to call toString on it. Because it's true, it's a Boolean, so this should now read true or false, right? Yeah, so it's a true, but I can't output Booleans unless I coerce them to strings. So there we go. So yeah, so we retain these, so now we can put numbers in there, objects, and then arrays as well, and they go in and out as expected. So now we have this generic local storage thing, and I think let's double check if I remember correctly. Application, where did these go? So we have name, and then number and array. Yes, so all of these, because they have the dynamic key, we can give it the key as well. So name, number, object, array. These are terrible keys, but that's what we got. So yeah, like if we wanted to, we could prefix those, you know, whatever. And then all that works, I think. So this is our function right here. I guess just to reiterate what we're, oops. Where'd we go? Just to reiterate what we're doing, we have a use local storage state function. It now takes a key and an initial value of any type. And then we have this function right here, which will, let's see. So this is going to get the initial value. So if we provide an initial value, it'll use that unless there's a value that is already in local storage. So if we provide an initial value and there's not one in local storage, then this will actually get set into local storage by virtue of this rendering, which is pretty cool. Now, we actually did this cool thing that I had not known until we went through this previous lesson, which is we have this optimization right here. So we pulled this out into its own, this whole thing out into its own function, which is get name from local storage. And we did that because this is doing an IO operation. And if we use useState like this, so we could just do this, right? And kind of run that function. This is going to run every time it renders, but simply by like wrapping it in a function expression, this will actually only render when it needs the initial value, which is really cool optimization that I just learned about. So super cool. Yeah. And then we just have a useEffect that is going to watch values for key and name, which we are, one is a argument, and then the other is the state. As those values change, and only when those values change, we'll run this useEffect to set the name. And and so then as our API for our custom hook, we're returning name and set name, our local functions, and then we do so in a way that mirrors the useState hook. So this really is just kind of like useState with a little bit of a local storage augmentation. And then, so you can see it in use. If we wanted to, we could take, actually, if I hover this, can we see the API for it? Yeah, so we could take a set number value right here, and then that would just be a function for us to set it inside of this component. So that is it. And I feel like, the next lesson is probably going to be pretty big. What is the next lesson? So yeah, we got through all of that. Next lesson is lifting state. So these will be the exercise 3. So this will probably be like really similar to what we just did, where it won't be. It'll be kind of like pulling state up into higher parts of the component tree to kind of prevent re-renders, I'm assuming. So we'll do that probably tomorrow around the same time. If you enjoyed this type of thing, you like code along, you haven't gone through Epic React before, or you have and it's been a while and you just want like a buddy to go through it with, I am enjoying doing these. I'll probably do it tomorrow, kind of, I don't know, I get the similar time, afternoon PT. But yeah, that's it. I just want to say thanks for the people that I know that came out and hung out with me, and then also new friends who rated in. I appreciate you being here as well, asking some great questions. And y'all are great. If you haven't checked out Epic React, it's a really great course. And that's it. Yeah. That's all. I have nothing else to pitch. See you in the next one. Thanks for being here. I think y'all are great. We'll see you later. Bye.